All right, welcome to Lazy Reader. Today, we are cracking open a book that, honestly, should be mandatory reading for anyone who writes code for a living. Robert C. Martin's Clean Code. And let me tell you, this isn't some fluffy guide on where to put your curly braces. No, this is about professional survival. So let's start with a feeling we all know. You've done it. The code compiles, it passes all the tests, it gets shipped, it works. And that should be enough, right? Well, Uncle Bob Martin comes along and asks a much, much harder question. A question that might keep you up at night. Yeah, it works, but is it any good? And to even begin to answer that, you first have to get your head around this one staggering, totally counterintuitive fact about our job. The biggest cost, the real time suck in software development, it's not writing new code, not even close. It's reading the old stuff. And that, right there, brings us to the absolute core problem that Martin just relentlessly attacks in this book. And that's the high cost of mess. Seriously, just look at that number. 10 to 1. Let that sink in for a second. For every single minute you spend actually writing new code, you, or more likely some poor soul who comes after you, will spend 10 minutes just trying to understand what the heck is going on. This ratio changes everything. It means your primary job isn't being a coder, it's being an author. You're not writing for a machine, you're writing for people. So, whose fault is this? It's easy to point fingers, right? The deadline was too tight, my manager made me do it, but here's the bitter pill Martin makes us swallow. He says no. His stance is absolutely uncompromising. The blame, it lies with us, the developers. Why? Because we're the experts. They look to us to tell them the risks, to give them the real story. And he takes it even further. This isn't just a bad habit. He argues it's flat out unprofessional to make a mess. Think about it this way. Would you want a surgeon to skip washing her hands just because you're in a hurry for your operation? Of course not. The doctor knows the risks of infection. Well, we are the doctors of our code base. We know the long-term risks of messy code, and it is our professional, ethical duty to stand our ground. Okay, so if making a mess is a professional sin, what's the alternative? What does the right way even look like? Well, that leads us right into the art of clean code. And what's cool is, to define clean code, Martin doesn't just sit in his armchair and give us his own opinion. No, he goes out and asks the legends. The people who literally built the tools we use every day. We're talking about giants like Bjarne Stroustrup, the guy who invented C++, and Ward Cunningham, the genius who gave us the first wiki. So what does Stroustrup say? He likes his code elegant and efficient. He says clean code does one thing well. It's focused. It's not trying to be a Swiss Army knife. It has one job, and it nails it. That's it. And then you've got Ward Cunningham's take, which is just beautiful in its simplicity. He says, you're working with clean code when you read a function and it does pretty much exactly what you expected it to do. There are no nasty surprises. It follows what we call the principle of least astonishment. It's just obvious. All right, so we get the what and the why. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the how. And the absolute number one most important rule is this: code must be expressive. It has to scream its intentions at you. Just take a look at this. It's so simple, but so powerful. On the left, you see A1 and A2. What are they? Who knows? You've got to read the whole function to figure it out. Now look at the right. Source, destination. Boom. Instant understanding. The intent is perfectly clear. The code explains itself. And this is not a small thing. Choosing good names isn't just nice to have. It's a core, fundamental skill of a professional. A good name has to answer all the big questions. Why does this thing exist? What does it do? How is it used? And here's the acid test. If you need to write a comment to explain your variable name, you've already failed. The name itself is the problem. Which brings us to probably the most controversial and maybe most important idea in the entire book. Get ready for this one. Comments are failures. Yep, you heard me. A comment isn't a helpful little note. It's an apology. It's you admitting, I'm sorry, I failed to make this code clear enough on its own. So every time your fingers twitch to write a comment, stop. Ask yourself, can I change the code to make this comment totally unnecessary? And here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Look at the code on the left. You've got this gnarly if statement, and you need a comment just to explain what it's for. Now look at the code on the right. All we did was pull that logic out into its own function with a crystal clear name, is eligible for full benefits. Now the code just reads like a sentence. The comment is gone because it's completely useless. So expressive names are like the clean, well-made bricks. But you can't just throw a pile of bricks on the ground and call it a house, right? You need to organize them. That brings us to our next big idea. Code must have structure. And when it comes to functions, the rules are beautifully simple and totally absolute. Rule number 1, functions should be small. Rule number 2, they should be smaller than that. No, I'm serious. We're talking maybe 4 or 5 lines max. Why? Because a function should do one thing. One thing. If it's doing more than that, it's too big. Break it up.
Okay, what about the whole file? How do you structure that? Well, Martin gives us this brilliant analogy. Think of a source file like a newspaper article. The file name, that's your headline. It should tell you the story. Right at the top, you get the big picture, the high-level concepts. And as you scroll down, you get more and more detail until you're way down in the weeds with the nitty-gritty implementation stuff at the very bottom.
And let's be crystal clear about something formatting, where you put your spaces, your line breaks. This is not a matter of personal style or opinion. It is not art. It is about communication. And since, as we've established, communication is a developer's first and most important job, good formatting is a non-negotiable professional duty. So you do all this. Your code is expressive, it's well-structured, but then time passes. New features get added. How do you stop it all from slowly turning back into a mess? How do you prevent the rot? Well, that brings us to the final and maybe most practical piece of advice, the craftsman's final rule. It's called the Boy Scout rule, and it is so simple, yet so powerful. Leave the campground cleaner than you found it. That's it. Applied to code, it means every time you check in a file, it should be just a little bit better than when you checked it out. Now, this doesn't mean you have to rewrite the entire system every time you fix a bug. We're talking about tiny incremental improvements. Change one bad variable name, split one function that's a little too long, remove one tiny piece of duplication. If every single person on the team does this, just these little things, the codebase can't decay. It's a system that is constantly healing itself, constantly getting better. And really, it all boils down to this one final, fundamental question that the whole book is built around. Who is your audience? You see, the compiler, it's easy to please. It just wants the syntax to be right. But the next programmer, your teammate, your future self, they need so much more. They need clarity. They need to understand your intent. They need a story. So you have to ask yourself, are you writing code for the compiler, or are you writing it for the next human who has to read it? If you want to master the craft and get more deep dives into essential books like this one, make sure you subscribe to Lazy Reader.